What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Ruben and Jessie podcast. As always, I am Jessie,
And I'm Ruben.
and we are back again with another magnificent episode. And if this is your first time, it will not be your last time. What is going on, Ruben? How are you doing today?
Feeling fantastic. Fantastic
Ooh,
in this
ooh.
beautiful weather we have here in California.
Tell me more. Tell me more. What are you up to right now?
Right now, shit, just work, man. You know what we do here? We
Do
don't play
not
no
know.
games. It's
We don't play no games.
that podcast life, that video life, that content life.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
what we
You're
do.
also you're also fasting right now.
Oh yes, yes. I'm deep into a 44 hours, but I'm currently on the 41st hour. I'm looking at my fasting app. For those that don't know, there's a great fasting app called Zero.
Ow.
Yeah, I just hit 42 hours. So if y'all watching on YouTube, I'm showing it on the screen right now. And I'll be able to break and at least end my fast at 3:20 with some bone broth and a little bit of fruit, just like something small, sweet, get things rolling. And then an hour later, have a nice, beautiful meal that Karina is making for us. That's going to be in my belly. Some grass-fed meat stew, some
Mm,
potatoes. You know what I'm
mm.
saying?
Yes. Yes. How'd you sleep last night?
Like crap. It's always hard when you do a fast, especially when you're not doing it regularly. I know we've spoken about fasting in the past in past episodes. So if y'all curious, we had an episode on our 5-day fast, for instance. But you definitely wake up in the middle of the night because the hunger pangs just really hit you in the most inopportune times. And because your blood sugar is so low, your body goes into like this alarming state because a fast is a stressful time on the body. Um, so yeah, I woke up. Well, last night I couldn't sleep right away. I had like immense creative energy, so I actually put some work in till about 11:30, and then I woke up again at 4:30 a.m. and I was just awake, and it was really about planning this race that we have. Well, I have because Jesse is too much of a bitch to do it. No.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. First of all, I didn't even get an invite. I wasn't even invited to participate in this. And even if I was, motherfucker, what's on my plate right now, homie. You know I can't be doing that shit right now,
That's true. That is true. But
dude.
still,
But
so
still, I am a bitch. All right, continue, Ruben.
still your bitch. But yes, I'll be doing the David Goggins for those that don't follow on IG. If you have been following, I've been posting about it. David Goggins has a challenge, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So yes, I'll be doing that. Equates to 48 miles in 2 days. So like barely any sleep, a lot of late night runs. I have to do a midnight run, a 4 a.m. run. So a lot of last night being awake at 4:30 a.m. was my brain trying to figure out how I'm going to do that, and just come up with a strategy as well as make some content around that experience and showcase the journey because it's definitely not going to be easy. But yeah, we'll have obviously a podcast about like that after the fact. So stay tuned, folks.
Yes, sir. Yes. Well, otherwise, won't you start letting the people know where you just came from? Because you had a very special experience recently, and I'd love to chat about it. Go ahead, man.
100%, dude. Recently, because of all these COVID lockdowns back in December, we were like, hey, we want to travel because every time we've tried to book some kind of travel, it's been canceled since early 2020. We tried to go to Vietnam, that got completely canceled, never ended up going. Um, and we've tried to like go to like even local places, go to like to drink some wine in Napa, go to whale watching near the Santa Cruz Bay, like all these things, and all of them have been canceled. It's just like, and that kind of hits you as someone who's adventurous as I am. I hate to stay in one place. It was upsetting. So in December, we were like, how about we do something that's outdoorsy, where we know hotels are still open, so our Airbnbs won't get canceled, for instance. and we were better prepared. So make sure we call, make sure we're good to go, make sure the national parks we wanted to visit were open. Everything was good, and we went straight to Arizona, to Phoenix, to the city of Phoenix, rented a car, drove up to Sedona, Arizona, which is about 2 hours up. Stayed in Sedona for 2 days. I'm just giving you all the itinerary right now. Then drove 2 hours to do Grand Canyon, stayed there overnight. From the Grand Canyon, we drove to Vegas, stayed there for a night. From there, we drove to the Mojave National Desert, went to the Kelso Dunes, which were beautiful sand dunes, really high up, at least 1,000 feet in the air. And then we went to LA, Santa Barbara, came back home to the San Francisco Bay Area. But yo, being in national parks, let me tell you, being in Sedona, first of all, that was the only place we spent 2 days. So it was like a lot of movement. But there's something about that place that was like, I need to go there. We need to spend 2 days there, and we need to make sure that we do something spectacular. So we had a beautiful soul connection session with a wonderful young lady named Linda, who's actually going to be on the podcast in March. So y'all be able to see that. But there's something about being there. Everyone talks about the energy. So for my woo woo people, apparently there's like these vortexes that exist in the earth. And they're very strong in this particular town. It's not even a city, it's a town. But just being in Devil's Bridge, you get that feeling of awe, which I'm writing an article about this. About, I don't know, are you familiar with Jason Silver, Jesse?
Catching Fire.
I think he has Catching Fire. He had another show as well, but he's been on several podcasts. You probably heard of him.
Well, Catching Fire is his book.
Oh, that's his book.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, but his show, I forgot his show. It was like Brain Games or something like that.
Okay. And they talk about finding awe or catching awe.
Yeah, his whole thing is about like, utilizing the power of awe. And awe is really just a mix of like fear and like overwhelm in a sense. And when you see these things, as I was telling you, when you were looking at the pictures and everything, I'm like, this is not real. This feels like a dream. It feels like someone painted it and put it in front of my face. So, and I'm sure other people have been there who are listening can relate, and I'll be curious to hear your experience there. But I definitely felt, I don't know if this correlates to that, but I was having like a lot of shoulder pain in this area for a few weeks, and it was still bothering me when we went. And when I went there and we sat up on Cathedral Rock, because Cathedral Rock is this, it's like the second biggest thing that people go and see. We just sat there, and as I was sitting there, I was just like, I just did like a nice healing, like meditation, 5 minutes, nothing crazy. I was just like, my body is 100%. I have no pain, like telling myself these things and imagining some white energy just like washing over my body. Definitely using the placebo effect. Ever since then, have not experienced this pain, dude. And I just did that 5 minutes. But yeah, there's some energy there that I'm like, and it's calling me back. Like I want to go back. I want to bring you. Obviously, I was thinking about you when we went, and I was like, me and Justin need to come here, do some hikes around there, because that's all there is to do. Like, if you want to go out and party, this is not a party place unless you know someone there that has a beautiful house. But I was like, damn, I need to come back here. But yeah, like Sedona was something else. I'll look at pictures now. But yeah. Then Grand Canyon, dude. You see my picture back there for my YouTube folks. I even brought a painting back because, again, is that real? What is this? What is
what
this?
is real?
What is real? Like, you see this place. I remember going to they have a specific hike where you get to go out into the middle, and you're kind of like hovering, and you see the Grand Canyon for the first time. It was only the south rim because there's different parts of it's gigantic. And I remember just walking off the bus because they have like shuttles. and just walking and just seeing the vastness and just like getting down to a knee because I was like, this is too much. Like, it's too
Mm.
much beauty. And I know, and we can go back to like experiencing our psychedelic trips that
Mm.
I had that feeling before where
Mm.
like it was too beautiful what I
Mm.
was seeing in my mind's
Mm.
eye that I had to like, I'm like, I can't even fathom. It's
Mm.
so hard to explain and put it into words, but
Yeah.
you get the goosebumps, you feel it all, and you're just like you're so grateful to be alive during a time that you're able to see this structure that Earth created. This is not humans have not touched this. Maybe we don't know, but humans have not touched this. It's all naturally made, and you're just like how like I mean obviously the science to back it up, but in your mind, if you don't know that, you're just like, what is this? Um, and I definitely want to go back. I want to hike into the Grand Canyon. You can raft on the Colorado River. We couldn't do any of that. It was like 10 degrees there. It was freaking freezing. And a lot of parts will close because winter, so a lot of snow and ice. But yeah, so Grand Canyon, man. Then after that, it kind of was just like, meh. Like I hated Vegas. I never want to go back.
Why?
Uh, it's just not my style, my vibe, especially coming from a place where you're like peace and then it's just madness of
Was
Vegas.
it really madness even now?
Even now, the streets were completely filled with people. The casinos were packed. People were drunk.
Really?
Yeah, man. It was just like, I mean, people barely wearing a mask. Like the typical, people wear their mask. They don't cover their nose when they're indoors, like shit like that.
I mean, I'm not upset about
Yeah, I mean, I didn't care, but
that.
you know what I mean? Like it's just this it's just crazy to see that it looked just completely normal. But it's not our style, it's not our
Mhm.
vibe. We definitely didn't like it there. Like Karina felt the same way. Like you get to a place where you feel a certain way and then you go here and you're just like, what is this?
Mm.
Feels like a energetic sludge that you don't
Yeah.
want near you, you know what I
I
mean?
mean, casinos.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
didn't gamble. I didn't do any of that. But what I would say is one good thing about Vegas, if you want to see and study people, like just study
Mhm.
people, it's a
Mhm.
perfect place because you got everything. Like
Like the
you walk,
extremes.
dude, it's crazy. You walk the strip, which we did when we got there. We got there around like 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon. We went to our hotel, dropped everything off, and kind of went out, walked the strip and you see all kinds of characters. It reminds me very much of New York, like walking through Times
Yeah.
Square, like homeless
Back in the
people
day.
back in the day, homeless people everywhere. You got these women who are practically naked trying to take pictures so you can tip them. And I know if you're familiar with Times Square, they have those guys who dress up as like the Avengers. You have those women who have their boobs out, wearing just underwear, the naked cowboy, like very, very similar, very, very much the same. But I was just definitely like, let's not let's not stay here any
You
longer.
went to the desert, no?
Yeah, that was after Vegas.
Oh,
Uh
okay.
yeah, after Vegas we went to the Kelso
All right. So
Dunes.
fuck Vegas. What's next?
Mojave National Preserve, which is the desert. We saw some Joshua trees, beautiful place, and we got to climb the dunes. Do not underestimate a hike that is all sand. Bro, bro. Do not underestimate a hike.
It was hardcore.
Oh my God, dude. I'm like, I mean, the beautiful part is that I did the entire hike barefoot, even though they were like, warning, there may be snakes. I was just like, we won't see a snake. Um, but when you're
Just for everyone listening, that is not advice.
no,
Please follow instructions when given to you. Thank you.
yes, please. Jesse and I tend to not follow rules. So just do it first and pay the consequences later. But yeah, I hiked the whole thing completely barefoot. Climbing dooms are very steep, and you're doing a steep climb while sand is pushing you down.
That
So
was not like fun.
yeah, it's not a good time. Um, I put a bunch of videos of us going down. That was
Mhm.
very fun to go down the sand and try to like, make a little slide or whatever the case may be. But climbing up, you're just not. you don't feel like you're making movement. You're like tired, you're dying, and you're not making any kind of movement. So it's like mini movements. You stop for a little while, catch your breath, then you do little mini
Did you have
movements
to go
again.
on all fours?
No, thank God. But
How
you're
long
so
did you
close
hike?
to the sun.
How long did you hike in the desert?
Maybe like an hour and 15 minutes up,
You don't
and
know
then
distance though?
it was less than a mile.
Really? It took you an hour to get less than a mile in. Wow.
The first like maybe not even quarter of a mile was flat, and then it's just like it's constant steep uphill because you're climbing the dunes. Obviously, we're crazy. We wanted to go to the highest dune that we can see. So to do that, it required a lot of work.
A lot of work, yeah. What
But
was it? Did it look nice though?
it was gorgeous, man. Like just feeling the sun, like just standing on the sand. Those are the people there, taking pictures, and there was like a photo shoot happening up there when we were there. It was gorgeous, man. Like it's the quietest. You don't hear anything. No birds chirping up there. Nothing. Zero. No
Silent.
cars. It's just you hear silence, and that's a great place to be. We sat there maybe for like 30 minutes before we were like, let's not get
Mhm.
sunburnt. So we
Yeah.
ended up going back down. But from there we ended up in LA because Karina is a big foodie. She likes to go to LA because she has all these food places to go to. So we did that. Nothing crazy there. And then we went to Santa Barbara, went to a beautiful house near the ocean. I don't know if you saw it on my stories. It was like this, apparently it's like a famous place. Everyone goes there. A lot of people get married there. Um, but yeah, we watched the sunset there, and then the next day we were on our way back home. But it's good to be on the road. It's good to adventure and just be with nature. It's definitely has its healing properties. Uh, and I recommend it to anyone. I'd be like,
Mm.
like if you're struggling with something, you're struggling with a bout of sadness. I wouldn't say depression, but a bout of sadness, or you just feel antsy, or you just like don't feel comfortable. Get out in nature, and it'll kind of put you together in a sense. Like
Mm.
just taking off your shoes, walking on the sand, or looking at the vastness of something like the Grand Canyons and mountains, or just looking at the sunset smack on red rocks, and just makes it this lush blood red. um it's just eye-opening, and you're just like, it humbles you as well, because I tend to get very egotistical, especially if a lot of things are working in my favor, and I'm like, well, that's not gonna last forever, bro.
Mm.
Death takes a step closer to you every single day. You know what I mean? So it definitely brings that gratitude, and I truly see, this nature. It was medicine. It was
Mm.
medicine that I didn't think I needed, but after that I
Mm.
was just like, oh, I feel that so calm. Like the sleep I got when we got back home was amazing, and yeah, man, I definitely want to do it again, and I want to do it for longer next time, because I felt,
Mm.
you know, we were cut short by the fact that we had like a schedule to kind of hold. Like, what if I just do it without a schedule? Like, I want to
Mm.
be in Sedona for 4 or 5 days, or maybe even longer. I want to be in the Grand Canyon for 4 or 5 days, maybe even longer. Like, I want to be able to just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
That's dope, man. So now walking into after that trip, like what are some of the insights that you have chosen? I mean, you've already said like the humility aspect of it. Are there any other insights that you feel like you've carried out into moving forward with your life?
And not necessarily. I feel like we do so much of the work that a lot of these things come back as
Mm.
reminders instead
Yeah.
of a new, epiphany. I feel like epiphanies are few and far in between. But definitely just understanding, I think, besides the humility and being humbled and the gratitude piece of it, it's just an idea of like, don't waste your time. Like, you look at a structure like the Grand Canyon, which has been in the making for hundreds of thousands of years. And one of the questions that came up to me during that time was, why was I so lucky, and the people that are on this planet right now so lucky to live in a time where you can actually go and see it? You
Mm.
know? think 100 years ago, it's been 100 years. Actually, it's the 100-year anniversary this year, I believe, of the Grand Canyon's opening, where they actually made
Oh,
it a tourist destination. Before that, there were only natives living there. You know,
mm,
the Navajo, and there's two other native tribes that live inside the Grand Canyon. Like that's their home,
oh
which
wow.
is crazy because you're like, it's 10 degrees in the winter, and from what I learned listening to one of the workers there, the highest recorded heat wave during in the Grand Canyon was 143 degrees. Bro, that's a sauna. You can't last for over an hour in there. You will be.
Yeah, but that's like I would assume like that's like the Himalayas though, right? Like we have
Mhm.
those monks that live in the Himalayas where it's fucking cold. But their practices teach them how to self-regulate their thermal bodies, you know.
Right.
So I would assume that those who live within those spaces probably have their own practices to manage, manage their
The temperature.
thermodynamics. Yeah, their temperature.
Man. And they have the Colorado River, so they probably just jump in it. Um, but it's just, you think of that and you're just like, I'm lucky that I can even come here. And they have the visitor center, they have shuttle buses so you can park your
Yeah.
car. You don't have to drive in, like worry about parking. They have shuttle buses that take you to different viewpoints so you can see the Grand Canyon from different views. um, and it's just every time, like Karina and I would say, like, fuck, every time I look at it, it looks like I'm looking at it for the first time again. That's
Wow.
that's
That's amazing.
that's amazing. Like, I already got used to the mountains here in California that we live next to in Mountain View. If I look out my window, it's not that same feeling. But with the Grand Canyon, like, we were there the first day, and then the next morning we went to hike into the canyon, and it was the same feeling. Like, even though we already had seen it, different viewpoints the day prior,
Mm.
we were seeing a whole different kind of beauty the next day. So it really made me think, like, fuck, like, don't waste your time. Like, really, like, I love adventuring, I love experiencing these things because it's like I want to show my kids, and I love the fact that travel humbles you. Like,
Mm.
travel, and it brings me back to why I love to travel so much, is because I've learned, like, this whole thing that happened this in 2020, where, like, for instance, race, like, currently right now it's February 27th, 2021, and there's a lot of Asian hate right now happening. I'm pretty sure you've seen it in the news and whatever. I lived in China. Like, I've seen the world on the other side and seen how beautiful that culture is and seen all these things. I've been to different countries, Mexico, and seen how beautiful that country is, and the people and how nice they are. And, like, you get this opportunity to travel to all these different places and meet all these different people. While they have their struggles, they have their tribulations, they have their own challenges, it makes you appreciate the vast differences that we all have, and
Mm.
the vastness and the deepness of humanity. Like, that's why I love doing this podcast, because we get to talk to people and really dig into their lives and kind of see how they created whatever it is that they're putting out into the world. So there's something about, like, I came back, like, I can't waste time, and I need to
Mm.
make sure that I'm moving in a I need to make sure that I'm taking every single opportunity, and I ride the waves of momentum that are going to hit. I feel like we're on a wave of momentum with the
Mm.
podcast, for instance, and I'm like, we cannot stop. If anything, we have to double down
Mm-hmm.
on this, and
Yeah.
content and everything, coaching and, like, helping out people. And it's just like, how can I bring, and it's like Philip was saying in our last podcast, if y'all haven't listened to that, please do. But about that hero's journey, and, like, finding the golden ore, and bringing it back to your village. And it's like, I feel like I'm in that process now, where I'm like, I've mined the ore, and now I'm like bringing it back to the
Mm.
village. So yeah, man, it was just, those are probably the three big things. It was like gratitude, humility, and that idea of just, like, don't stop what you're doing, because you have a lot to provide this world with.
Amen to that, dude. Well, sounds like a pretty successful trip, my brother.
As always.
Very cool. Very good. Sweet, man.
So, on besides me having an amazing trip, Jesse has been extremely extremely busy with work and just life in general. So, yo, update the folks. What is happening in Jesse's life?
Oh man. Oh man. Well, I definitely think at some point we're gonna have to do. Uh, I don't want to say maybe not necessarily a solo cast, but like you get to interview me because it has been a whirlwind
Oh
of
yeah.
experiences lately. Um, what I don't know if I shared this before, but the the most important thing that I'd like to share is that yeah, it's been a whirlwind since December, like end of November, beginning of December. It's crazy to think that we're almost in
March.
March, and I'm like, I can't. My brain doesn't understand what happened. Like, how did I go from December to March? And between that, how did all of these things happen? You know, and to state a few, I mean, well, one, my mother my mother is a diabetic, and she actually had gotten COVID, and she was put into the hospital with 40% of her lungs having been taken over by the disease, and yeah, I mean that was obviously very scary, and concerning, and unfortunately around like pretty much within 2 to 3 weeks span of that, um, well, actually my whole family got COVID. My grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, my father, and my brother. Not me, everyone else. And so that was
Crazy.
all sort of, everything was sort of all up in the air. And my mom was in the hospital for a few weeks. And that was, a crazy time because no one could go see her. No one could do anything. You know what I mean? And 2 weeks after my mom got out of the hospital, my grandmother passed away. And
Just
that
so
was,
folks know, did your grandma pass away because of COVID or because just age?
well, no. So she has, well, she had dementia. And it got to the point where it was really like just like really, really bad. And she was pretty much like put on ICU, and from there out, you kind of just it's kind of just a patient game. I mean, of course, we were still hopeful that maybe something would come out of it, but
Right.
I've said this to you before. In many ways, it was more of a relieving experience than anything else because, of course, like that's my grandma. I love that woman. She used to feed me mangoes when I was a kid. Um, yeah, like just the best. And a dope ass Russian food, So
Mm,
I love babushka, but yeah, she had been gone. Like she was not even herself for years at this point, and she
right.
was suffering. If anyone who's listening who has a loved one with dementia knows, is like they're like you could see that their soul is like trying to configure their reality, but their operating system is no longer like they're just glitching out. So they're
It's
like,
like a
hey,
glitch. Yep.
yeah, like the information is there, but the processing is like I don't know how to put these things together anymore. And so my grandma would have these moments where like she'd look at you and you see like you see grandma, but then she quickly like just breaks down again because it's not complete. And so that was always so painful to watch. And my
Right.
grandfather, who was a very stubborn man, would did not want any help or support taking care of her. And so he was doing that all by himself and struggling himself, like just super. I mean, they've been together since they were 14, and so I can only,
What?
yeah, dude, yeah. So I can only imagine what that must have been like. But fascinating enough, like when she passed, he, when she was put into the nursing home, um, which was a few weeks before she passed, he was a ghost. Like he was just because my grandfather's very much like bombastic, really fit guy. Lots of energy, likes to crack jokes, likes to laugh, likes to just have a good time. And when she passed, I'd never seen him like that before. He was a total ghost of himself,
Wow.
I remember when I went to go visit him, well, not not when she passed. I'm sorry. When she was put in the nursing home, he was a ghost of himself. And I remember when I found out that happened, I went to go visit him the next day. And I remember, I mean, when I saw him, like I said, he was very, very shooken up. And I remember I asked him, I was like, what are you feeling? And he said, in Russian, he said pusta, which means like nothing. Like it just means like like pusta. It means like it's just like nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like nothing. And I was like, damn, that's so real, you know, because he's been putting up with this shit for so long. It's like, what can he feel?
Right.
But then once she passed, after she passed, about a week later, you know, he was feeling good again and feeling jolly. And I was so shocked because I was like, I thought it was going to ruin him. You know, I thought it was going to, but then when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, well, look, he's been with this person who looks like my grandmother, but isn't my grandmother for years now, day in, day out, you know, wiping her after she uses the bathroom, you know, putting on her clothes for her, making her food, feeding her food, you know, like just literally keep preserving the body as much as he could, you know? And so I would assume that my assumption is that once she passed, he like finally got a good night, a good night's
Right.
sleep. You know,
Right.
he finally, yeah. And I think also like when that's happening, it's kind of hard to figure out what you're gonna do because it's not clean and cut where like this person's gone, right? It's like this person's here, but they're gone. So like I had, you know, and you know, kudos to him, like that old school loyalty is out of this world, bro.
Seriously, man. Seriously.
That old school loyalty is like something else, man.
It's
Like
like
this dude.
how can you? It's like we got to learn from that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. You know,
Right.
it's not always great, but because I think in many ways he was a very stubborn man and could have used, you know, other people's support and input. But at the end of the day, like he was there till the end, bro, in sickness and in health, my guy, like legit. And I think I wonder, you know, I've never asked him this, but I wonder if it was if at some point he was just like, this is my duty, and he had already sort of accepted what was to come. And then once she passed, he was like, okay, well, now I'm just me, you know, now I'm just
Right.
moving on. Which is, you know, and so my mother being in the hospital, my grandmother passing away. I'm sure you guys heard that podcast that it didn't start with you, with Ruben and myself. Like, you know, that happened. If you go back and listen to that podcast, that happened the day my grandmother passed away. So it was a lot, you know. And then most recently, I have me and Valentina have actually recently split apart. Our relationship has shifted. Everything is good. Everything is healthy. We're still very good friends. She is one of my best friends, but I was in a position where, and again, we'll return to all of this because there's like
There's a
so
lot.
many details that have to go into really sharing what this experience was like.
We'll give you our relationship podcast.
Oh, we should do that. Yeah, let's do that. I like that idea. Write that shit down,
Write that shit
homie.
down. I'm writing it down, people.
Yes. But there was, you know, all of this was happening like back to back to back. Stuff at work was changing. Just so much was going on where it just felt like I needed to separate myself from that relationship to sort out a lot of things. And I also can't believe that, like, in some ways, I know that it was a short time ago since I moved, but in some ways it feels like it's been a long time since I moved. Like time is such a weird concept to me. And so since then, you know, I've become very, very, because I'm sort of more on my own now, I've become really fascinated with deeper and deeper spiritual and metaphysical topics, be it simulation theory or holographic universe theory, or I mean, it's not even theories. Like you could say it's a theory, but it's mostly proven to be true. So, you know, um, and epigenetics and shit like that, and just really starting to recognize the power of being a human, which is
Mm.
really amazing and something I want to have more conversations about. But also something I want to give thanks to is heart math and the power of using self-regulation techniques within the heart math like within the heart math institute, which is like the coherence training, because that stuff, man, with everything that's been going on, when I look back in my life, when things not as dramatic have gone on in my life, I have been not as uh, like nowhere near as on top and in flow with and in surrender to the experience that is happening around me. Never ever, I'm almost in many ways like shocked at myself, and it even goes to the point where I question myself. I'm like, am I suppressing any trauma here? Like, am I suppressing things? Because what I've shared with you just now is like a third, a third of the things that have occurred in the last few months. And I ask myself, like, yo, am I like compartmentalizing? Am I shutting trauma away? Am I trying not to deal with my emotions? And I look at it and it's like, nah, it's like, yo, like I've been preparing myself for this. And these practices have really helped me navigate my emotional landscape as things are happening, which I think is such like underrated reality where
Right.
you can assess your emotions in the moment while things are happening. Because I
It's
think,
such a crazy superpower.
yeah, because one of the things is most, I would say for most people, most of the time, at least most people I know, I don't know everyone, but most people most of the time are only able to use hindsight, right? They're only able to, and I think that's why compartmentalization happens, or like undealt with emotional emotions happen, because you just trying to get through the moment. You're trying to ignore it or move on, or you're just gonna fucking yell or scream or do something, right? You're gonna have some triggering response to the situation, and then when you've had enough separation from it, be it a relationship, be it a death in the family, uh, be it a shift at work, only afterwards are you going to look back and be like, man, that was a tough time. Now, I'm not going to say I haven't done that. I'm not going to say that there weren't moments where I like was having a low key mental breakdown at the intensity of everything that was going on, and stack the current world affairs on top of all that, um,
Exactly.
uh, surely, there was a point where I was legitimately breaking down, because I was like, this is overwhelming. But it was a moment, and then I didn't let it drag on. I didn't let it consume my existence. I didn't let it dictate, how things were going to continue to evolve in my life. And I think right now things are moving in the direction that I exactly wanted and have been putting the effort and energy and visualization in for all of these months. And I didn't quit on any of these practices while all of this was happening, not once. No matter how many hours I was working every day, no matter what was going on in my personal life, I didn't stop. And and I almost see it like this tornado of energy and events came into my life and was like, hey, we're gonna confuse the fuck out of you for like a little bit. And then we're gonna put you in a situation where you're gonna thrive. And you wouldn't realize the situation unless you somehow had to go through this whirlwind.
It's so
And
funny, real quick. I
yeah,
just
go
want to
ahead.
put a thing real quick, but are you aware of how swords are made? The best blades on the planet.
No.
So, and I got this from studying like samurai and Japanese swordsmen, and that's what happened in your life. It's like in order to make a sharp and one of the best swords in the world, it requires not only the proper kind of iron or steel, mostly steel for the best swords, but you need fire and pressure.
Mm,
So it's like life for you
mm,
was you're the sword, right? And you're a little dull, let's put it in that sense. But you're the steel, right? You have this powerful mineral that can pretty much cut through anything. But you've gotten dull over the time by complacency, whatever that may be. And then life came and was just like, I'm putting some fire and pressure on you. But what
yeah,
comes out of that? It's a beautiful, shiny, sharp blade. So it's as
yeah.
if life was creating this so that you can become this sharp blade.
Well, hey man, I'll take that. I'm a fucking sharp blade, bro. Well, it is sort of fascinating now that we're talking about it. Like I take those experiences again as I mean, again, maybe I still maybe there is a piece where I will, let's say a year from now, 2 years from now, uh, when there really is a lot of space to
Mhm.
look back at this part in my life. But I just I like it really is so difficult to bother me now. Like to get me upset about something, like you really like I don't even know. Unless it's like physical danger, you know, or to myself or to a loved one, or I'm really being put in a tight pinch somewhere. Um, but for the most part, like I don't know, I just feel like right now I'm able to consistently wake up and carry this sense of ease and awe and excitement and curiosity and um, fun into my days that I don't think I've ever been able to do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I've been in like by anyone's standards, um, I have been in positions that were not as high pressure as they are right now. You know, like I've been in really comfortable, like easygoing positions. It's not that I was, living out my dreams or anything like that, but I was just like, hey, this is a good spot for where I'm at and what's going on. Um, and I think at those times there was so much more on my mind and so much more, you know, constant I used to say like I have a quarter life crisis every quarter of the year, like every year I'm having a quarter life crisis, since the age of like 18, you know. And I think actually now that we're talking about like one of the biggest issues I had when I was a little bit younger, and this only just a few years ago, is I always thought like I did something to my brain when I turned 16 and started to take my life more seriously,
Mhm.
which is like it was propelled by a lot of fear and shame and guilt. And so I was really just so hard on myself all the time.
Mhm. I remember
Uh,
that.
yeah, I was so hard on I was so hard on myself all the time. And and it was almost like all or nothing. So it was like either I was really rigid and hard on myself and did everything, or I did nothing, and then uh, like basically I would be hard on myself either way, whether I was doing things or not. I would just beat myself up for it. And I didn't. I just feel like I'm in this place now where I can work. Uh, I can continue a strong work ethic, and uh, without having to be overcritical, understand how to find joy and peace and loving practices and connection with friends and connection with loved ones, and continue to create awesome relationships and to create and to continue to increase my income and to continue to just do all the things that I really want to do without having this like just rigid mentality. And I don't, I again, I think it goes back to the practices because what I'm starting to experience is like a more symbiotic relationship with reality.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I no longer feel like it's just up to me, you know? I feel like I have the like real shit. I really feel like I'm a co-creator with the universe, and that the universe is conspiring for me, um, and that as long as I continue to stay awake to that fact and continue to accept the love and support and sort of taking things with a light heart,
Right.
um, it will continue to navigate my life in the direction that is best for myself and for all. And it's been a wild experience, but I think having gone through that little gauntlet that I did, you know, and I mean that, like, I still know that people in this world suffer demonstrably, I said that all wrong, terribly more than I do on a daily basis, you know. So I always like to be clear that I'm not minimizing my experience or the pain I felt. I'm just saying, like, I know that it's not the
Well,
worst pain.
something that I heard Eric Gotti say on one of his podcasts that you're mentioning is that your pain, your traumas, like all that, it may not be 100% to someone else, but to you, it's 100%.
Hmm.
So although we can think that someone else does have it worse than we do,
Hmm.
that's it's really hard to like come into
Quantify that.
to quantify that because everyone's pain
Yeah.
threshold and trauma threshold, it's vastly different.
Mhm. Mhm.
So your
But I
yeah,
think that was a tool though for me. Like
mm,
I think that was a very much a like contrast bias. You know what I mean?
right,
Like even when my mom was in the hospital, I was like, look, man, there are people in this world whose mothers get raped, cut into tiny pieces right in front of them at a very young age with no relationship to and I had to go there. You know what I mean? I had to go there because
right,
the thing was like, I'm not, you know, like, I don't say I'm not special. We're all special. But the thing is like, I'm not unique in the sense that I can't lose my mother abruptly. You know what I
right,
mean?
right, right.
It happens every day to
Every
people
day.
all over the world, you know, and I mean, you know, of course there was immense fear and concern and unknowing and like, what the fuck is going on? But I think to some level it was like, yeah, listen, man, everyone's everyone has their day, you know, everyone has their moment of like, whoa, that's crazy, you know.
Right,
um and I'm so grateful that that wasn't the day for me. That wasn't that experience for me, or for my mother, of course, um, and for my family. Um, but it was definitely a tool that I used, and I do acknowledge, because I hear what you're saying. Like, you can't necessarily quantify one's pains to another pain,
right.
but I think there is pain out there that's significantly worse than other pain, you know.
Sure.
And um, I don't know necessarily why I brought that up, but it was I think what I was trying to say was that something about that moment. I guess, you know, you do practices, right? Like, you do certain practices because they're preparing you for times in your life. You know what
Right,
I mean? And I think this was a moment where everything that I've learned up until this point was had to be tackled. You know what I mean? Like, they were actually had to be they had to be tested. You know, what have I learned? You know, what am I able to do? What can when the chips are down, what can I stick to? Because literally it was every area of my life, you know. Like,
right, right.
there was not one area of, oh, you know what's crazy about that though? The Wow, I'm just realizing this now. And we'll wrap with this, because this is banana pants to me. Something that I've been, and I continue to do now, something that I've been visualizing since the top of the year, even before that, was a uh, four words, four words that I wanted to create in my life. Um, and it was freedom, resources, community, and love. And these were all places in my life that were in total chaos the past 3 months. But why? Because from chaos brings order.
Right.
And now I'm watching my life transform into those things that I have been visualizing and putting forth and manifesting and working towards, and just putting my energy in, like, hey, this is what I want my life to look like. And now, as I'm saying this, what I'm seeing is that, and Joe Dispenza talks about this all the time. It's like, when you put what you want out there in the ether, you better be ready,
Yep.
because life will bring it to you, and it has to break something down to build something up.
Exactly.
And literally all of those areas were broken down. Everything was broken down. Um, uh, yeah, everything was broken down, and now they're being built with such a strong intention, such a powerful intention, that that it just makes total sense to me now. So there's that. That's been my experience.
It's like TBD. Like, people are gonna hear more about this as this revelation continues to unfold itself.
Yes. Yes.
But I mean, if people are listening, I'm like, what do you mean, like bringing things into the universe and, like, co-creating with it, like all these things, like, we talk about it a lot, but I think that a lot of folks try to see, like, how can you objectify it and make it like actually physical, which is hard because it's like, so 99.9% of things probably we don't know. We think we know, but we're limited by the human mind. By the consciousness that we live in this body, we're so limited. Like, all we have is theories. So, like, that's part of the questions that are probably coming up for some of folks listening. So how would you?
What I would say to them is same thing that Paul Chek says, which is, don't take anything I say as gospel. Don't take my word for anything. You go out there and test it yourself. Some things that, and a lot of what I'm saying is actually has been scientifically proven. It has been scientifically proven that reality only exists when we observe it.
Yep.
Google it. It has been proven that we are in quantum entanglement with everything that exists in the universe. Google it. We can have a podcast again where I can share and break down the science of these things that I'm talking about. But for the time being, just go out there and look at it. And Gaia TV is a great resource. Check into the holographic universe, check into quantum entanglement. Look at guys like Billy Carson or Greg Braden or Bruce Lipton, the godfather of epigenetics. Look into these things and start learning and recognizing that it has been scientifically proven that we are powerful as fuck, and that we are in total symbiotic relationship with our existence. Look into simulation theory, right? It's almost all scientists across the board agree that it's like 1 in a trillion chance that we do not live in a simulation, right? And so what is the power of that? What does that mean? How do you get to use that to your advantage? Look into all these things. And it stops becoming woo-woo once you see the science behind it. It was woo-woo when there wasn't any science behind it, right? Because that's our Western mind, which is like, what, and even for me, even for me, I've had trouble really accepting these ideas into my being, because I wanted the science. I wanted to understand how this actually worked, because to me it just sounded like a bunch of airy-fairy bullshit. But then once I saw the science, I was like, oh, this is real shit. Okay, cool. I'm gonna start applying it, and I did, and it works. So go check those things out. Hit us up. This is what we're here to do. We are coaches. This is what we do. This is what we like to offer you. So we have our own practices of how we like to, create and recreate our realities. We do it all the time.
Exactly.
And it's fucking awesome. So hit us up if you want to work with us on that front. Otherwise, have a fucking magnificent day, y'all. I love you.
Much love, y'all. Until next time.
Love. Thank you. And we'll talk again soon.
Peace.